On and hello, everybody, and welcome to our second incubation and direct investment event. I have here some of the incubation program and some are one of our portfolio direct investments. Firstly, I would like to go over the agenda, which we will start with an introduction by Olaf, our co-founder and CIO. Then I quickly want to show you, talk about our incubation program, and then we will have an introduction by our portfolio companies, MathforMoney, Proof of Impact, and Vereign. And at the end, I would like to start the panel discussion and closing off with some questions. So if you have any questions, type it in the comments and I will answer, we will answer the questions. So please, Olaf, I would like to give over the word to you.
Thank you very much, Nikolai. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So on behalf of CVVC, welcome everyone. Thank you to Nikolai and the CV Labs team for organizing the event, and thank you in particular to our startups for agreeing to join. From my side, a very quick summary on CVVC and our activities. CVVC, what we do is we invest in the most attractive blockchain startups globally. We're early stage investor, and we're looking for blockchain startups that build applications based on the technology. So it's a venture capital style approach. Aside from investing, we provide advisory services, and through that for our startup a network and can connect them with industry participants, industry investors, and other interested parties. We have our very own co-working spaces, currently one in Zug, one in Liechtenstein in Vaduz, one in Dubai, and opening more. So on one hand, there's a roof over the head if you need one, but more importantly, it's access to entire network and our tenants for an immediate network boost. And then we run events from large to small and competitions, which for portfolio companies, trying to give them a stage to present themselves to a broader audience over and above what you would expect from a regular demo day from a venture capital investor. Our investment focus is very early stage. We'll speak a little bit about the incubation program later, but in essence, have run that twice, have a standard offer of 125,000 for 10% of equity and or tokens. The next program you'll hear about will start in September. Through that, we've done 22 investments so far through the first two programs, and then we also invest direct into companies that are a little further ahead in their development. But still early stage, have done 7 so far. So 29 investments, 17 different countries, 4 different continents. So we're quite international in terms of our investment focus. We prefer equity or convertible into equity, but we'll also start to look at attractive token business models in the future. In terms of end markets, our focus is actually on what we call technology for tomorrow, which is areas where we expect overproportional growth due to socioeconomic trends and situation. And you can see the 6 on screen. For startups that feel that they don't fit into this, but still are serving an end market that they feel has overproportional growth, please try and convince us to add a 7th or an 8th element, and don't get stuck on those. But this is what we've done historically. Today, you'll hear from 3 different startups, which I believe showcase both the diversity of the technology, the diversity also of use cases that you can accomplish, and also our approach to look for a very international portfolio with the greatest minds and founders. So first from our neighbors, essentially Vereign, a Swiss startup, one of our early direct investments, that their use case you'll hear more about is digital identity through the blockchain. Second, Math4Money, which was in our first incubation program. And last but not least, Proof of Impact, which actually was our very first direct investment. Fleur and the team applied actually for the incubator, but then they were running and developing so fast that they were almost too fast for incubator. And then we did a direct investment into Proof of Impact. Just as a note, we've also pursued follow-on investments in both Vereign and Proof of Impact, and looking to do the same with Math4Money when they are ready to raise. Nikolai will talk a little bit more about our incubation program, so I won't spend too much time on that. The key message is the time to apply for that is now if you're early stage, and you'll hear more what to expect there. If you're listening in because you're an investor, you can also reach out to us and learn more how you can invest, either co-invest or invest through us into the portfolio. And in order to do that, we left you the email addresses here. For investors, you can just check us out online or send us an email to investor@cvvc.com, and the startups through hello@cvvc.com, or through the application channel for the incubation program. With that, over to Nikolai.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Olaf, for the insights. I would like to go over to my part, which Olaf already mentioned. We'll talk about the incubation program itself. So CV Labs incubation program, right? Third batch will be on the 27th of September, which will be held on site, hopefully, due to COVID, right? Here in the Crypto Valley. If you don't know, Crypto Valley has over 960 blockchain companies and over 5,300 employees in the space. CV Labs is not just an incubator, it's an ecosystem. There we have co-working spaces here in Zug with over 150 blockchain companies, such as Cardano, Glisk, or Tezos. And we have as well one in Vaduz, a bit the smaller one, which is the gateway to Europe. And we opened up the third one in Dubai around 3 weeks ago. So we have a lot of space where you can work at all over the globe. Then next to that, we have as well events, right? We do CV Summit, as Olaf already talked about. We do meetups. We have education, incubation, advisory, and excubation. And now to the incubator, we invest up to 125. We take 10 to 20 startups per batch, and it's a 10 weeks program. So the content is 10 weeks. The program overall will be 12 weeks. The incubation program is blockchain focused. I said you will be here amongst the 950 blockchain companies. You learn from more than over 70 mentors and experts, and get to know all the big protocols, which are all near here, like already mentioned, Cardano, Tezos, or Polkadot. Our approach is for founders, by founders. Everybody from our team has an entrepreneurial spirit. The mentors, they have a startup background, and we have a dedicated ecosystem. As we said, CV Labs is much more than just an incubator. As already mentioned, the mentors, they have an entrepreneurship track record. Each startup will get one, a dedicated one. We'll have experts doing all the workshops, 1 to 4 hours workshops, about legal and so on. And thirdly, we have inspiring speakers. So these don't need to be from the space, but these are big founders, inspiring people which kind of talk about their success stories. Here's a small overview from the companies, from the mentors and experts, right? From PwC, Johnson & Johnson, or from the protocols Cardano, Tezos, and Polkadot. And we as well work together with IBM and AWS. Moreover, we're also working closely with the university here in Switzerland. This is a small program overview, right? So we start with creating a winning startup. It's just a bootcamp where you learn about the why and how to run an agile company. You'll learn about design thinking. And then you'll have the outro pitch after 2 weeks, where we go over to business plan and marketing, where you learn all about digital marketing, about budget the right way, or get media training to pitch in front of the press. Then we will go over to product and technology. All the big protocols will come. You will get to know them. They will talk about how, what they offer as a protocol. If you get grants or if you get like supports, you learn about architect solutions and like blockchain and patents and so on. At the end of the program, we will have more like networking and the demo day, where we pitch in front of a big bunch of investors globally. So we'll have it also on site, but we'll live stream the pitches online. You will have through the whole program, you have random pitch opportunities from our events, CV Summit, or like online panels like this one. So what are you looking for? We are looking for projects that are groundbreaking and are using blockchain technology. They need to be early stage, so seed or pre-seed, and we need to have kind of the outline of your deck, of your project, and you need to be able to come here at least 10 weeks in 10 weeks here. And I already got one question from the audience, which is from Richard Petty. He asked me, how easy or difficult is it to get a residence permit in Switzerland through us? All right, so you will get a visa in Switzerland, which will be 90 days, right? 12 weeks, which you can be here and do the program. So that's not a problem at all. So don't worry, apply. And for 99% of each city, state, you will get the permit. So what are you waiting for? We're looking for the best startups, and apply here. You can write me an email. I'm always happy to talk to or to jump on a call to kind of discuss the program in detail with you. So now I would like to give the words to Fleur. I'm sorry, the name is not correct. But
the picture is, so that's good.
Exactly. So please, Fleur, share your screen.
Great. I'm just going to share my screen. Everything's showing all right here?
Yes, we can see
it. Good. Perfect. Well, hello, everybody. You've got a very heavy South African contingent. So even though our business is in the Netherlands and in the US now, I am actually based at the tip of Africa, as is Catherine, who'll be speaking later. So you can see we're having the reverse of the emerging markets taking place. So as I said, my name is Fleur Haynes. I was already like a serial entrepreneur when I started Proof of Impact 2.5 years ago with an amazing team of blockchain engineers. So on our team, we have the product officer and the technology officer who built the Voyager broker-dealer platform. We also have some amazing talent that came over from Uber and Brex on the B2B sales side, because they all share our common goal, which is that we don't think ESG and impact investing is going to be some isolated activity. We actually think that every investment in the world will have some impact or sustainability component to it. And the problem, however, is our infrastructure, so particularly our investment, our financial, our accounting infrastructure, has never really been able to cater for a new paradigm, which isn't just looking at risk-adjusted return, so how much money do I get back at what risk for how much money I put in, but the new paradigm of risk, return, and impact. So we basically had to build the world's first, ideally 100% digital, although that hasn't been entirely achieved yet. We still have some manual processes involved, but it's a technology platform to work with companies. So for you startup businesses in the audience, we would love to engage with you already when you are building your business to make sure that you set up your operating systems so that you can plug into a platform like ours and share from your ERP, your Salesforces, your CRMs, the data that is coming through. Now, in addition to the data that you have in your operating systems, there's a lot of information that we can now get from what's called contextual data sources. So think about satellites, drones, IoT devices that you as a company may not control, but are able to give us further information that will either validate certain claims that you're making. For instance, if you're saying that you're 100% renewable, yet if we look at the solar panels on your roof and the weather pattern and UV emissions, there's no way you could get that amount of energy from the panels that you have, then there's a contradiction. So the third level of information that we collect, which has been hugely disregarded over the last decades, is what we call the social data. So in the E, the S, and the G, the S has been neglected, but it has some of the most valuable information in terms of how are your employees feeling about working in your company? What do your customers think about your services and products? Does it really impact them? So the richest impact data sits there. So we gather all this data through APIs, and we wouldn't be having this conversation on this platform if we didn't write this data to the blockchain. And because you're all an educated audience, I don't need to explain that the blockchain doesn't verify anything. So garbage in is still garbage out. So our algorithms need to make sure that the data that goes onto the blockchain is actually accurate. But what it does do, it preserves the data through the capital side. Because the other side of our client base are investors, and investors are under increasing pressure from regulators, from their LPs and asset owners to make disclosures on their environmental footprint. But we think within a couple of months or years, it would also be around the social standards that their portfolio companies are adhering to. So the data that we create in our data lake is a source of truth, and then it has to effectively evolve along the capital stack all the way to the asset owners. And at each level, it can be used for analysis and further interpretation. So we've actually started in the Netherlands, but we have a global footprint. Not surprisingly, because of us also really focusing on mapping this data from an analytics perspective to the SDGs, we have a lot of Swiss clients. So at the basic level of the reporting and the verification of the impact data, we just onboarded PCI Pharma Services, which is a portfolio company of Partners Group, which is one of the world's largest, most successful impact fund managers that originated from Switzerland. But as these companies stay on the platform, we start evolving to identifying insights and trends and patterns that this impact data is giving us, potentially an indication of what not only the future impact outcome of these businesses are, but also what the financial performances are. Because our second part of our hypothesis is that we believe that companies who do well at an impact level, so who do contribute at the environmental and social level, will financially outperform. And we have some evidence around that. So once we have the impact factor, we know what data matters. Then again, going back to our blockchain thesis of ultimately the whole financial world will become digital, our data bundles that have impact content in it will actually become the security that you will trade. So that's kind of the order of the stack. And as our clients evolve around these stacks, we will be able to obviously offer greater value to them, which we can charge more for. So we're evolving from $10,000 to $100,000 per client. This is just an overview. We went live last year. At the end of last year, we only had one paying client then. We're now already at 15 paying clients. There are quite some significant names already on our funnel. And we really hope by the end of the year to get to $1 million in revenue, contracted revenue. In terms of the role that CVVC played, as Olaf mentioned, They've been with us since the very beginning. They have come in, actually now they're coming in for the third round, which is our seed round, where we're raising $2.5 million. And they've introduced us to other investors. And yeah, we're extremely proud to call them one of our backers. That's it from me.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Fleur. Thanks. A really interesting project. And now I would like to hand over. To Catherine again. No, it's Klaus from Vereign. Sorry again for that. But Klaus, the stage is yours.
Cheers. Thanks for having me. Let me bring up the slide deck. Can you see it?
Yes, perfectly.
Wonderful. Okay, so thanks again, Nikolai. Thanks a lot, CVVC, for having me, for having Vereign, and giving us this awesome platform. Vereign is all about authenticity in communication. Basically, what we want to do is to establish digital provenance, and obviously, it always takes two parties at least to communicate. So we do have to do this together, but I think the approach that we have taken is different to many others. We don't approach this topic from the recipient side, but we actually approach it from the sender side. And I will give you a quick idea why that is that way. All right, so basically the whole topic of trust in communication starts with you valuing it, obviously. So depending on what role you play or what persona you represent, you might value the trust in communication differently. So if you're a business, if you represent a brand, if you're a customer, if you are a parent communicating with the school, or if you are a private citizen, it's all different personas that have different needs in terms of authenticity, in terms of security, in terms of integrity of communication. And the funny part is, if you really think about it, it really boils down to what platforms you're communicating and reaching out over. In terms of the overall and most used communication platforms, I think it all boils down to email. And while email might not be the most used tool for informal exchange these days or for community outreach, it is still on the business side the most used communication platform, and as well for any kind of account setup or account recovery procedures for all those platforms where you reach out to your communities. It always boils down to email. And in that sense, email has become sort of your unverified online identity, because it is sort of the central point of your online outreach. And that is exactly also where the problem starts. On one hand, we have 4 billion users globally, and email is the most used communication tool, but because it lacks also an identity layer, it is also the most abused one. So the figures are quite striking. About 90% of all cyber attacks started with spear phishing email, and the consequence of that is dramatic. And this is in particular tracked on the corporate side. So all the figures that we know today, they are actually established statistics from corporates, but the entire consumer side, or let's say the entire individual's side, is absolutely not covered. So in that sense, it's probably an iceberg we're talking about. And the way how email is abused, it is usually via identity spoofing, spear phishing, CEO fraud. And very often you don't even know that your email address, or let's say actually your online identity is being abused, and might only reach your knowledge when it is already too late. And that's basically where Vereign comes in. Vereign allows you to aggregate and to turn your email, but also your social media credentials and any kind of online credentials, and aggregate it under your control. And we call this the secure electronic authentication layer, or in short, SEAL. And it starts with email, but what we do is we basically give you your own seal of provenance, kind of like a tag that you can attach to your media, and basically claim that media at the creation, and obviously anchor it against the blockchain, and thereby making it kind of independent from the platform. So you can basically go on and you can prove your ownership or the belonging, and prove that to your online communities through that seal, which they can verify. They can go and either use plugins, or they can use they can scan basically the QR code, and it leads them to again, either through auto verification with the plugin, or through a verification app, a web verification app, to a place where basically your entire online presence come together and authenticates the medium which you have just signed. And there will be another project that we're working on at the moment, that is actually the integration of a wallet. And all of that eventually leads to a online identity that consists of all your online identities that you already have, with the difference that you can actually, for the first time, bring together these fragmented communities that you're dealing with through the various platforms at one place, and that one place is under your control. And we don't really need to establish a new identity. It's simply the combination of your existing ones, because in the end, they represent who you are online. The go-to-market actually happens through corporates, even though we do have the tools on the consumer platforms like the Chrome store for Gmail. We also have it on the Microsoft App Source store, where you can basically download an add-in for Outlook as well as for Office 365. But we are reaching out through the corporate departments who are interested to protect their brand, who are interested to protect their corporate identity, but also through online advertisers and online publishers, even to the extent of reaching out to social media influencers, because as you might know, there are influencers that have hundreds of thousands of followers, but no check mark given them to their profile. And we basically work on the ability to put your tag, your seal into your profile, and allowing your followers to actually verify who you are. So that is something that we're working on for the consumer side. Again, it works very easily. You can download it from the app stores and install it in your email client. But it also works via APIs. We have, for example, integrated with a secure email gateway provider last year, and they themselves reach out to their corporate clients to bring it to them under the topic of reputation protection and revision security. And that is it. We are very happy with CVVC. CVVC has accompanied us from quite early on. In fact, we had the seed round in end of 2017, and CVVC joined us in 2019, and we just closed the third round. And again, we were very happy and blessed for CVVC to join once more. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks a lot, Klaus. Also, super interesting project. And now we are going to move to the one and only app. From MathforMoney, who is one of our first incubation alumni. So the stage is yours.
For real this time.
For real this time, exactly.
Cool, thanks, Nikolai. So my name is Catherine, as he mentioned, and Math4Money is an education app that is designed to teach children between the ages of 6 and 14 about financial literacy. I'll describe the app in a little bit more detail later on, but I'd like to take you through the motivation first. So we read a research paper about financial literacy in South Africa that was conducted by our Labour and Development Research Unit, and it found that less than half of South African population is financially literate. And while to us this problem was quite evident locally, we started to realize that this is actually a global problem, and it's not just a problem for developing countries. So in a recent FINRA study, they found that only 37% of respondents were found to have a solid understanding of financial literacy, and that was down from 39% in 2012 and even further down from 42% in 2009. And I mean, the questions in this study are very basic. So it's like, if you have $100 in a savings account, earning 2% a year in interest, after 5 years, will you have more than $102 or less than $102? So yeah, this is a big problem. So we spent a lot of time dissecting and analyzing the elements that are critical to the development of positive financial behavior. And we found that it comprises of 3 main elements. So number 1 is basic numeracy skills. So that's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. We also threw in a little bit of interest and inflation just for good measure. And then number 2 is the confidence to apply math in the real world. And then 3 is building good money habits, so actually developing the habit. So this is our app. It's essentially what our app does. And each day children have to solve these real world math problems, and then they have to meet their weekly targets. And the math questions that they're given, the difficulty is automatically adjusted to the child's math ability. So we can really focus on building their confidence rather than creating a negative attitude towards math at a young age. And then once their weekly targets have been met, they can unlock that week's pocket money, which has been assigned by their parent, and that they can choose to either spend or save. If the child chooses to save their money, they can earn extra interest every week. And then this will help them get closer to their savings goal. And it's these small daily and weekly goals that are crucial for developing those healthy money habits that I discussed. And then we've also built in other gamification techniques like unlocking badges for various achievements, a leaderboard where they can challenge their friends. So yeah, the Math4Money app really just keeps children entertained and engaged while we help them sort of shape their financial future. And on the other hand, it's an easy way for parents to track their children's pocket money and monitor their progress. They can do all of that on a parent dashboard, which I actually haven't shown here in the screens, but the tech that we built in for the parents, they can actually see where their child's strengths and weaknesses lie, because each question is pinned to a topic. For example, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you don't share. You're not sharing your slides.
Oh, sorry. It says I am. Maybe it's just delayed.
We just see you. Just see you
the whole time.
Yeah, I thought you first going to do an intro. So that's why I didn't say anything.
Oh, sorry. Okay, let me just exit and then do it again. How about now?
Something is popping up. Yes, perfectly.
Okay, sorry about that. Good thing I said here on my screens. So here's the app. I'll give you guys just a little second to go through it before I move on to the next slide. But yeah, as I was saying, because each of the questions are pinned to different topics, parents can actually see where their children's strengths and weaknesses lie, and then they can intervene where they need to. So yeah, we've spent the past while doing a lot of customer testing just to see how we can make the app as effective and sticky as possible. Up until this point, the app has been free because we've been testing, but from next week, we're actually changing it to a paid subscription. So on the screen are just, I guess, some metrics. We're on about 2,000 downloads, and since launching our version 2, we've seen a 400% spike in monthly downloads, which is great. And since then, we've continued to see a growth rate of, on average, 35% month on month. Our retention has also increased by 55% since the new release, which I guess makes sense because that's the stickiness that we've been working on. And then, yeah, right now we're just focusing on further development, which always takes a lot more time than we expect, and just ensuring that our customers are finding a lot of value in the product. So yeah, thanks for listening. I think that's all the time I have. Sorry, you couldn't see my previous slide. You only missed out on one. But thanks, Nikolai, back to you.
Thanks a lot. But no problem. The slides look good though. Good, awesome. Thanks a lot for your quick presentation. And now we would like to come to the panel discussion, right? And I would like to start with you, Kath, because you're the only one who actually joined our incubator. I would like to start with this angle. Kind of wanted to ask you, why did you choose to join an incubator, and what have been your expectations and so on?
So Nick and I, so Nick is our other co-founder, we used to work together at an incubator. So we were quite familiar with that sort of strategy, and we knew it really well, and we trusted the process. And we were very aware that we probably had a bit of tunnel vision because we were working so closely on the project. Also at the time, there were very specific skills that we were looking for. Blockchain wasn't very widespread, like especially in South Africa, and everyone that was involved, everyone was still just trying to figure it out for themselves. So we knew we had to look elsewhere, and obviously we're better than Crypto Valley. And yeah, we knew that the whole ecosystem was going to be so valuable. Being a part of CV Labs helped us get a lot of credibility. Stage startups, something like credibility is so important. So yeah, I think that's our main sort of justification for joining the incubation program, especially CV Labs.
Yeah, I see, nice. And yeah, you mentioned the ecosystem, right? And Klaus and Fleur, as you didn't join the incubation program, but I guess, did you also kind of, profited from the ecosystem that, we have, that the Crypto Valley has, especially both, using the blockchain technology? Both can start. Maybe Klaus first.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I mean, you guys have been a tremendous help in actually many areas. I mean, for once, I remember very well that's where I met Fleur as well. When you introduced us to this possibility to pitch in front of all the Swiss ambassadors in the casino, right? I mean, that was a fantastic event. And you also brought us together with Furuhuki, which is one of those PR agencies that is extremely well established in Switzerland and very well connected, in particular to the federal government and all sorts of very interesting institutions. We're actually working with them or about to. You have introduced us, for example, to one of our investors, one of the very recent ones, which is R3. R3 is the world's largest enterprise blockchain. They're behind so many of those central bank initiatives where it's about digital money and all that stuff. I mean, basically, R3 is a huge win for us. That actually came from you guys, so thank you very much. And another one I remember is in the dire times, right? When there was COVID and there was basically corporate life was dead, and we had to somehow go through that period. And you actually helped us somewhere in the background with getting access to cantonal funds and helping our idea being pitched the right way or validated the right way. So I hold you in very high regard in this respect. And so you helped us survive. You still believe in us, and I think it's now the second consecutive invest. In that sense, definitely you have helped us in many aspects.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Thanks a lot for the kind words, right? We try to build up the ecosystem. You know, I said, you know, R3 and so on, well connected to the ecosystem, and that's kind of the goal, right? That CV Labs has, not just as an investor from CVVC, but CV Labs as the ecosystem. And maybe Fleur, you want to add something, you know, about the ecosystem? You know, does the ecosystem help you, not just us, but in general the ecosystem?
No, I mean, absolutely. So, I mean, as a company that is in blockchain, but not only that, like we are one of the biggest contributors to the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP, to develop the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and how that's going to be translated into operating metrics that companies can actually report on. Like you've given exposure. We were in Gstaad the first time together, where indeed I met a lot of aligned impact investors, but we also found another blockchain investment fund that immediately, you know, closed our round. We then went to Davos, and from Davos, as well as with that session that Klaus just mentioned on the ambassadors, we are now working with SECO, S-E-K-O, working with the Swiss Development Corporation. So there's, at the commercial level, there's a huge amount that you have positioned us for. But I also like to say that, you know, there's sometimes more than just the hardcore, you know, introductions. And there's also a softer element, which maybe doesn't get discussed as often, but we had a bit of a situation, you know, a co-founder dispute, and we had to restructure. And your team was extremely helpful to be available, level-headed advice, you know, this is what we're going to do. And these are things that at the end of the day, you can't value in money terms, but they do kind of, you know, make a company, you know, survive or not. So I think it was extremely valuable.
Yeah. This is, you know, at the end, as I said at the beginning, you know, our approach for founders, by founders, you know, we know how hard it is, and, you know, there's going to be pivot, there's going to be challenges, and, you know, we kind of bleed for that. I know you guys, you know, when I talk about incubation program and with the incubatees, because we had last month or so, we had a similar event where we had only incubatees, and they were in the same batch. And, you know, they worked closely together, they helped each other out. And Cav, maybe, you know, on the incubation side, did you have the experience that, you know, people are willing to help to kind of grow together? How was your experience in this regards?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually really fun to be working so closely with other projects that are sort of at the same stage as you. And yeah, we were doing so much skill swapping as well, like trading in like some design work for development and helping each other with our networks. I mean, Teja even helped us now set us up with new developers in India. So the network, I mean, it's stayed really strong. And I watched the previous webinar, whatever, earlier, and it was just really good to see their faces again as well. You really join a community, a lasting community, which is really, really cool about the in-person experience.
Nice. And as I said at the beginning, I will get some questions. I have one actually for you, Cav, to talk, because as you couldn't share your presentation, it didn't work out. Someone asked, what's your blockchain component? Like, what part of your business involves blockchain? This is from Vishesh Nagotra.
So thank you for the question. It isn't something that we've built in yet, just because it's quite an expensive part of the process. So it is still, we're looking at which blockchain to use and all of that. We're still doing a lot of research into that, but that's definitely something that we're looking into for stage 2. Right now, we were So you have to understand, like, a lot of our sort of competitors are doing a similar sort of thing in the banking system, but the banking fees are just way too high. I mean, we tested it at the beginning, but you're paying sort of 12% per card transaction, and the fees are just exorbitant. So that's sort of why we're looking more at using blockchain. And then also, as a sort of longer term vision, we are looking at bringing in more of the social impact side of things, in which case, like, the transparency becomes really important, especially in a country like South Africa, when you're donating funds to help children's education and things like that. So it is something that we are looking to still build in, but we haven't actually built it in yet. Yeah.
Nice. And you just said, you mentioned Tesher, which is one of our alumni from the incubation program, right? With where they're going to help you with the developers and so on. And my question would have been, the next panel question would have been, what kind of milestone do you have? I guess one is blockchain, right? And
yeah. So blockchain's a major one for us. Sorry, wait, you broke up at the end there.
No, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so blockchain is a major one for us. I think another main thing, because we're changing to paid now, I mean, up until this point, we have not made any revenue. We've just been very fortunate that our operational expenses are very low, and also our customer acquisition costs at this point have been really low. But yeah, so we're either looking to get to like the point where we've got about 1,000 paid subscribers. We're focusing quite heavily on that. And then, yeah, it's just growth and blockchain integration, I think, are our next major milestones.
Nice. And what about you, Fleur? What are your next steps? Next milestones?
Yeah, so we're a bit further advanced. So we have quite a lot of paying customers, and we've had this, I would say, almost avalanche of requests in the last 2 to 3 weeks from private equity funds and companies, because everyone is now clogging on to the fact that, it's not just a nice to have, like you actually need to start tracking some of this data. So our biggest challenge now is really scaling up the operations, making the technology robust. We also need to move, as I said, to 100% digital solutions. So we need to automate a lot of the data integrations, the sales funnel, because there's a lot of pitches happening, a lot of meetings, and it would just be great for all of us if we could, spend some of that time on creating more products rather than, engaging with clients. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, we had also expanded into the US. So we're definitely very much looking to hit that market and go to market hard there. And that also includes closing a round. So our round hopefully will be very much US filled in terms of fintech investors. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting next 6 months.
Nice, awesome. Looking forward to the news. Klaus, so you said you're going to integrate a wallet, right? So I guess that's kind of the next big step, or what is kind of, 6 months? What kind of milestones do you have?
Yeah, so we have basically 3.
See, it's not just Africa that has energy and bandwidth problems.
I just wanted to say. So, Klaus, if you can hear us, we cannot hear you anymore.
Hello?
Oh dear.
Yes, now you're back.
I'm back. Okay, the networks. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Again, so we're working on 3 streams concurrently. One being the commercialization of the product Seal, because we basically just got listed on the various stores. So we're having several distribution channels that we're pushing at the moment to really go for customers. The second stream is about this wallet integration. This will be actually quite a big project because we intend to combine it with a token sale. The idea behind there is to come up with a concept where you can incentivize your community to read your emails, right? So basically, in a way, it's you reward your community to pay attention to the email. I mean, you might be familiar with the basic attention token. It's kind of a similar idea, but for email, and in particular targeted at people advertising via email. The possibilities go much further because we are working with Eternity on this, and depending on their ability to wrap all kinds of different tokens, we're actually looking at the possibility to transfer Bitcoin peer-to-peer, right? So that's really a very cool feature that we're working on, and would not require anything else than a wallet, and is something that doesn't exist like that yet. So this is a big milestone for us. And the third one is the integration with R3, respectively Corda. That's basically another blockchain. We had to prepare ourselves first internally in order to be able to actually anchor to various blockchains concurrently. So basically the seal product as we have it today, this QR code plus all the stuff that works in the background, is actually able to write to several blockchains at the same time. So we have a variety of projects going on with R3, one of them, for example, to turn what you call a bill of lading, basically shipping documents, into an NFT, a non-fungible token, right? And one of the challenges in the shipping industry is that there are a variety of parties that all require the same documents, share the same documents, and they sort of change title, right? So they move from party to party. And in a way, this is exactly what's happening in the space of non-fungible tokens at the moment. And we are trying to actually replicate that based on email and for an industrial space. So these are the three big things we're working on.
Sounds super interesting. Yeah, so I have another question from the audience. This is actually for me. So the question was about F6S. So you can apply for, I know you will apply for the incubation program over the platform called F6S, which CAF did. I'm not sure, Fleur, if you ever did this process or if you already kind of changed before that to the direct investment.
No, we applied and we had the conversation, yeah.
So it's a bit bigger workload, right, with 50 questions. But somebody asked, so it's Kirill Sit, he asked, what's the average time of application review from F6S for the incubation project? Is it a week or a month? Before I'm going to say something, maybe Kath, you want to say something, how long we had to kind of respond, get back to you?
I'm trying to remember when we applied, but I remember we found out about 3 weeks before the program started. So for us, it was a bit of a mad rush to get visas and whatnot to get over there. But I don't actually, to be honest, I don't remember when we applied. I think it might have been at the beginning of the year. I'm actually not sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You were quite late at the end. So to give kind of a general answer is you have like about, so with the applications process, it's always open. And then we're going to start looking at the applications 2 to 3 months before the program starts. And latest 1 month before the program starts, like really latest, you will get a feedback from our side. I have another questions from the audience, which is for Olaf, which is, what are you looking for in a startup that applies? Olaf, would you kind of want to answer that question?
So the first thing is team, the second one is team, and the third as well. And then after team, it's the idea and it's the product market fit. We obviously look at tech, where they stand, or if it's very early stage, if we have a good sense that the team is able to build that tech, because that sometimes within the incubation program can still be quite early. And then lastly, whether it's again a little bit of team, but whether that team also has an ability to not just build and grow the business, sell, to investors, the product to customers, and also pivot, because chances are you will pivot. So it really boils down to, you know, the right team with a good idea at the right time for the right market. That's essentially what we're looking for. I do urge everyone to take that application process seriously, because in essence, you know, that's our very first knockout criteria, is if that application process is done haphazardly, and you get a sense whether people put love into that application and accompanying presentations or not. So I'd rather do 5 and spend a lot of time on 5 than just ship out 50 applications to different programs, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Quality is quite important. Thanks a lot, Olaf. So we are slowly coming to the end. What we kind of is, you know, through the incubation, or no, the ecosystem that we build up, it doesn't matter if you're here for 10 weeks. Obviously, you're a bit more in the ecosystem than the direct investment, but you still can profit from the ecosystem in both stages. So I kind of want to ask first Kath to kind of say why somebody should apply for the incubation program, and answer it really short, like 1 sentence or so.
I would say like networking, accelerated experience, and just access to the blockchain networks. I mean, you really have access to everything that you need when you're there. I can't think of anything that we needed that we didn't have. And even if you don't know what you need, CV Labs will tell you what you need. So yeah, it's just an all-round helpful experience.
Thanks a lot. Fleur, you applied, but you ended up for a direct investment, which always can happen, right? If you have such a good, successful, you know, or kind of working that fast that you grow faster than you don't even fit that incubation program. But you applied. Why?
Yeah, I think what's the most admirable about the CV Labs approach, or CVVC as the investor, is just the open-mindedness. So impact was not on VC's radar screens when we started talking, right? Or ESG even, for that matter. So having had the foresight that this could actually be something, not just as a really good blockchain application, because I still think it's one of the better ones, but that it could actually be a fantastic business, you know, that just requires foresight. And I think that's one of the things that that CVVC has.
Cool. And now, Klaus, I know you have never applied for incubation program, but maybe, you know, 1 sentence, why should you apply, you know, yeah, in your eyes, if you would even apply, right? That's also a question.
I think it all boils down what Catherine already said. I think if you have all the elements at your fingertips that you need to jumpstart a business, I think that's extremely valuable. And for us, I mean, yes, the 3 co-founders and the 4th one who was our angel. I mean, we're all sort of senior executives already. We have already had experience in business and have our own networks. But I think especially for the younger ones that don't have that and are in an area where a lot of innovation is happening, and it's happening so fast, and you cannot be on top of everything. And I think if you're in sort of a hot spot where there is so much more relevant information and connections happening at the same time, I think that's extremely valuable.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great input. Thanks a lot. Cool. So I thank everybody for listening. I thank you all guys for participating in this short 1-hour panel discussion event. For the audience, if you have any questions about the incubation program, please come to me. If you have any questions about how to invest with us, come to Olaf. And if you want to get to know those startups, let me know. I can share the deck if they didn't have their email on their presentation, or yeah. Please contact us. Thanks a lot, and thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Hope to see you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.